Today's conversation is inspired by a wonderful book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. In the book, Napoleon Hill has a conversation with an illusory character, which we can refer to as the devil, which was also brought up in the Bible, 2 Corinthians 11:14. And no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. So we could say the devil is a generator of illusions, adversary. Now, not adversary trying to hold you back from delight, because that would be illusory. Only the individual can hold themselves back from experiencing delight. The illusions of separation-based beliefs generated by the illusory devil, which does not actually exist, if identified with, the individual appears to, let's say, go down directions to experience an illusion which the individual may think of as light, yet it is a shadow, an illusion, which then results in suffering. And you know what I'm talking about. It's those habits, it's those behaviors that, let's say, provide temporary satisfaction, yet after that temporary satisfaction, there's suffering. It's not true delight in relation to 1 John 1:5, where it states, "This then is the message which we have heard of him, and declare unto you, that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all." That means, I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. The fact that you exist now means you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And thus you do not need to seek it by identifying with beliefs, we could say, of temptation that seem to suggest in mind that the appearances are the source of delight, which is an illusion. Delight is within. Why did we have these beliefs in the first place? Well, it's articulated quite well here. He asked the devil a series of questions. One of the questions was, how do you gain control of the minds of people? The response was, one of my cleverest tricks for mind control is fear. I plant the seed of fear in the minds of people, and as these seeds germinate and grow through use, I control the space they occupy. The 6 most effective fears are the fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. So we see these fears are illusory. For example, if a person fears poverty, they may appear to hold themselves back from doing the things that they genuinely love to do, which automatically manifest as riches. Whatever form of creative expression. We live in a wonderful time today where you could turn anything that you love to do, and I mean anything you love to do, into a business. I watched a video the other day of an individual who bought an exotic car. This individual makes YouTube videos talking about their car and also has different stories and life experiences with this car. And then they end up getting ad revenue from their channel. They get sponsorship deals, endorsement deals, and they actually even talked about how they do that to generate a lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit, doing what they love to do, driving the car that they love to drive, and they partner, you could say, with the car to generate wonderful experiences with their audience through their content. And they make money doing this. And the money that they made paid for the car. Here, a person can, through creative thinking, by releasing shame, condemnation, and illusory beliefs, think for themselves and have a wonderful insight to buy the car of their dreams and create a YouTube channel around this car in which they talk about it, share their experiences with it, and the ad revenue and the endorsements and other initiatives that come from the channel pay off the car. Now we can call this unconventional thinking. I personally call this accurate thinking, the true way of thinking. I've been an entrepreneur full-time since 2009, and I've worked with thousands of entrepreneurs with these illusory beliefs, untrue beliefs, which point to fear of poverty. Criticism is an interesting one. A person might think, well, I don't want to go out and buy this car and make videos around it because people in the comments might start criticizing me. But meanwhile, they might not understand yet, and no shame and condemnation, how business works. So based on accurate thinking, this individual goes out and invests in a car which they genuinely desire to drive. They create a YouTube channel. It goes up in popularity, and they make a wonderful, lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit as a result of this content. And as a result of investing that money, they enjoy a wonderful lifestyle. And also, they benefit millions of viewers who experience delight with their videos. So we see then it's not masquerading as light. The individual is not identified with those untrue beliefs with regards to poverty and criticism. And by being themselves, Ephesians 5:1, imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are his dear children. What's God's name? Well, in Exodus 3:14, it states, and God said unto Moses, I am that I am. Thus thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. Thus, created in the perfect image of the Creator. Just be as you are. Or we could say, just be. And don't identify with these untrue thoughts, illusory thoughts of separation from the source of delight, which is God. The source of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. As the individual accepts that I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, they automatically appear to do. Everything happens ideally automatically. They act on inspiration because they're not identified with these illusory beliefs of poverty, criticism, etc. If they're identified with these untrue illusory beliefs, and by that I mean not love, not happiness, not peace, not bliss, not fulfillment, they may fall for what is referred to as hypnotic rhythm, in a way that is not a manifestation of how they truly desire to live. Can I tell you how to live? Can you tell me how to live? I have no desire to tell you how to live. And I trust you have no desire to tell me how to live. Because, as I say, from experience, I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. That's undeniable. You can't deny the fact. By being still, you know that I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You know that you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Now, can you experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment as the outer appearances of God? Well, if you're experiencing life, ideally automatically, then mind has been purified from these untrue beliefs, And the outer appearances of God are then symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, which we could say appears different than my way. And that's perfect, because your way is in perfect harmony and in contribution with my way. There's only God in the reality of God. And my way is in perfect harmony and in contribution with your way. Everyone appears synchronistically to be in synchronicity in the reality of God, which is heaven on earth. So the question was asked, what is hypnotic rhythm? How do you use it to gain permanent mastery over human beings? We could say temporary mastery, because these are illusions. Illusions only appear to disappear. Because as 2 Corinthians 11:14 states, and no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. The adversary simply brings awareness to the untrue beliefs. That's what Napoleon Hill is doing. Do you see it? He's having a conversation with these untrue beliefs, which we can bundle together and call the devil, the master of illusions. Illusions that appear to be light in mind, yet if identified with, it results in suffering. So a great example would be, many commented about the video that I did with Ruben about my public speaking. If you haven't seen it, I'll link in the description to it. Why I can speak like that is because I don't need approval, validation, or confirmation about what I say. I speak from my heart. In the earlier stages, it was challenging to do that. It was challenging to communicate my message because I was identified with fear of criticism. Yet, upon applying what was discussed in that video, I purified the subconscious mind from those untrue, illusory beliefs. And as a result, you can say, I push out delight. And as you and I are no different. As stated in Ephesians 5:1, imitate God, therefore, in everything you do, because you are his dear children. You and I are no different. You can put out delight, because what is the source of delight? God is the source of delight. Beyond the illusions of I am, as all individuals arise from the source of delight, created in a perfect image of the Creator, pure delight, pure consciousness, as stated again in 1 John 1:5. Then this is the message which we have heard of him, and declare unto you that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. So the question is asked, what is hypnotic rhythm? How do you use it to gain permanent mastery over human beings, which is illusory because it's not actually permanent? The response was, any impulse of thought that the mind repeats over and over through habit forms an organized rhythm. Thought or physical movement, which is repeated over and over through the principle of habit, finally reaches the proportion of rhythm. So the question is everything happening in your life ideally automatically from the premise of truth, knowing that you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, or not? And if not, no shame and condemnation. Release the identification to the illusions of separation from the source of delight. God is the source of delight. Where's God? Well, when you say I am, can you point to the sky? You cannot. We can say God appears as a delightful sky. I see God everywhere. There's God, here is God, here is love, there is happiness, there is peace, there is bliss, there is fulfillment. Yet the source of those appearances are within. Not, we could say, masquerades of light, because you have found the kingdom. When you know that I am, the source of delight within, you witness delight everywhere. You experience delight everywhere. And it is not an illusory light. Because in my experiences in life, any definite chief aim that I committed to, it was a symbol of delight. So yes, I experienced it, as in I actualized it. Yet also, mind purification happened on the journey to actualizing it. And also, when I experienced delight that way, there was no suffering afterwards. It's not like I said, oh, I built my IT business to success. There's a void. I don't feel happiness. No. That was a symbol of delight because only God gives and fulfills the desires of the heart. So why would God give and fulfill the desires of the heart if it resulted in suffering? That's illusory. So what happens during the mind purification, which is essentially remaining committed to actualizing your vision? That's it. How do you remain committed to actualizing your vision? You don't allow your mind to drift onto illusory thinking, untrue thinking, not from the premise of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. You put off any of those former conversations if they appear in mind, if they have been identified with, which belongs to the old man. And the person witnesses that everything happens ideally automatically in their favor as a wonderful flow-based bridge of incidents to manifesting their vision. And so it states, that abstract, elusive thing called character is nothing but a manifestation of the law of hypnotic rhythm. Therefore, when speaking of one's character, it would be proper to say that their thoughts-habits have been crystallized into hypnotic rhythm. So we speak about not generating and identifying with a false identity construct, which is made up of untrue beliefs, not from the premise of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Rather, be as I am. And allow the character that you play to be an emanation of God, as soul doership is an illusion. And so what does it appear as? Well, it appears as an individual being in flow. It appears as more and more so each moment, with increasing frequency on a continuous basis, as everything they touch turns to gold. Resources, relationships, people appear synchronistically to be in synchronicity, generating wonderful life experiences, business successes, etc. This is what happens when the individual does not identify with illusory thinking. Napoleon Hill did an interesting thing by having a conversation with this bundle of programming, which is illusory, illusions, not real, does nothing to fear. Someone might think of devil or Satan, and they get afraid. It's an illusion. It's not real. Where can it exist other than in mind? If an individual identifies with the fears, then yes, it could physically be in the body experienced as what we can call fearful emotions. Yet the emotions are experienced that way as a result of identification to these illusory beliefs. So Napoleon Hill is bringing awareness to it. He asks another question. It seems that you go out of your way to keep people from thinking. This is a wonderful question. Recently we discussed as applicable not thinking, being still, not thinking. Because your true nature is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and what arises by not thinking in moments of stillness, like for example in meditation, or during emotional release, or being still, is the still small voice which is accurate thinking. As the devil responded here, yes, accurate thought is death to me. The still small voice, the greatest teacher in the universe that arises within from the silence, from stillness, by at times not thinking, allowing that still small voice to arise, provides the accurate thought. Also, thinking clearly from the premise of fulfilled desire. That's accurate thinking. Thinking from the premise of truth, I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. That is accurate thinking. He says, I do not mind people thinking, as long as they think in terms of fear, discouragement, hopefulness, and destructiveness. When they begin to think in constructive terms of definiteness of purpose, as we discussed, they immediately become allies of my opposition and are therefore lost to me. Who's the opposition? Well, the opposition is pure delight, not illusory light. Not light, if identified with, provides temporary pleasure and then a whole bunch of suffering afterwards. True delight is I am within now. The fact that you exist is love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. because you have been created in the perfect image of the Creator, the source of delight. And upon being as you are, or as I say sometimes, being as I am, the light appears everywhere, in, on, and as the outer appearances of God. There's God, here's God. You see delight everywhere. You see love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, everywhere, with increasing frequency on a continuous basis as far as the senses perceive. And when you experience it, there's no side effects afterwards of suffering. Pure delight. The gifts of God, pure delight. Because you seek ye first the kingdom, and you found the kingdom within. I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And having found the kingdom within, delight appears naturally, automatically. So one of the things mentioned in this book is one of the results of identification to particular beliefs that are untrue is what is called drifting. So Devil was asked, can you describe drifting? The response was, I can best define the word drift by saying that people who think for themselves never drift, while those who do little or no thinking for themselves are drifters. A drifter is one who permits themselves to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of their own mind, which are illusions. Only you can imagine what the circumstances mean. Even if I say something to you, even if I give you a direct statement that could appear as, let's say, disempowering, you still imagine what that means. As in, nobody has any power in your mind other than you. And by that I mean specifically, what's God's name? I am. Thus, God is the source of true power, the source of everything that's delightful. As going back here, we mentioned, then this is the message which we have heard of him, and declare unto you that God is light, and in him is no darkness at all. 1 John 1:5. Pure delight. Now prove it. Don't identify with these illusory, untrue thinking of shame, condemnation, fear, and see what happens. Delight appears. And as the light appears, it's unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. So what I mean by that is, if it appears to change, still delight. So, for example, I get a lot of questions about dating. They go on dates, and then they say, I went on this date, but it didn't work out the way I would like it to have worked out, and so I was very unhappy. I said, there's no need to condition your happiness. I am happiness. Except that happiness is not based on how a date goes. And if you rest assured in the sure foundation of happiness, what you'll notice is true, authentic happiness-based dates. As you're listening to this, you know what I mean. Personal experience, sometimes I went on a date, and let's say visibly it was not what I wanted, yet I remained as I am. I am happiness. And the next day you met someone. Pure delight, wonderful experiences. Because let's say if I was identified with the illusion of not being happy as a result of conditioning that particular appearance, then I would enter into that illusory state rather than remaining in the reality of God, which is good, perfect, and pleasing, as stated in Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, perfect, and pleasing will. Good, perfect, and pleasing. I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, pure delight, everywhere delight. That's how you think for yourself. Think from the premise of truth. Think from the premise of God. See the world through the single eye of God. Matthew 6:22, the light of the body is the eye, one eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Pure delight, everywhere. As you practice this, you'll automatically see delight everywhere. In situations or challenges which are opportunities, or circumstances which are opportunities. In entrepreneurship, for example, as the client is having a conversation with you, you see delight. And it's not because you try to convince them there's the light. It's because you see the light. And it's so obvious that you see the light, that all that appears is the light, as them seeing the light. So the question was asked, what brief message would you send to the typical drifter if you wish to cure him of this evil habit? So the illusory evil habit. And he says, some form of service useful to as many people as possible. I agree with this. Definiteness of purpose. If I experience delight within, and I know the source of delight within, if you experience delight within, and you know the source of delight within, then you could share delight in a way that is authentic, accurate thinking for you. It may not be the way another person does it, and that's perfect. Why is it perfect? Because there are infinity ways of sharing delight, and each individual shares delight from the same source in different ways. So the individual I mentioned earlier, that's their way of sharing delight. That is their useful service. They create wonderful content, which is informative, educational, and entertaining. He's talking about how he's actually doing it and inspiring people to do it. And I've had conversations with many hundreds of entrepreneurs who have said to me, I don't know how to turn this, what I'm doing here, into a business. And we found the way. Because delight is everywhere. If you genuinely love to do something, with all the tools, resources that are available right now, I don't know how it cannot be turned into a service, which can generate an increasingly lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. I just can't see it. Because, again, Matthew 6:22, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. So how do we release identification to these illusions? Put out a wonderful service sharing delight with people. And observe the abundance of riches that flow your way. Because giving and receiving is one. To think that giving and receiving is separate will generate illusions of separation. He says, is the habit of definiteness a permanent protection against your control? Interesting question. The response was no, not by any means. Definiteness closes the door of one's mind to me. So that's key. As long as that person follows the principle as a matter of policy. Once any person hesitates, procrastinates, or becomes indefinite about anything, they are just one step removed from my control. So, if the individual is about to identify with illusory thinking, be still, release the identifications. Do not identify with those illusory thoughts. And you cannot fall for illusions. Do you see that? You see how crystal clear it is? You remain on course. It was wonderfully, again, articulated in the video that we released on Tuesday. And Ruben facilitated that conversation masterfully, asking very precise questions that point to what we're talking about here. I recommend watching that video for more details. Another question was asked, can a person who moves with definiteness of both plan and purpose be always sure of success? The direct answer was no. And the explanation was, the best of plans sometimes misfire. Which again, what's the problem with that? He says, but the person who moves with definiteness recognizes the difference between temporary defeat and failure. Or we could say seeming defeat and failure. When the plans seem to appear to fail, we could say, they substitute others because clarity arises, intuition provides the optimizations based on the optimization data. What is this temporary defeat and failure? Optimization data. For example, when we run marketing campaigns in business or sales campaigns or anything in business, we put it out there and based on the response we get, we optimize until it becomes successful. This could mean changing the copy, change the positioning, change the way we package the product or service, optimize the product or service, innovate. There's a whole list of things that the entrepreneur can do rather than identifying with the illusion of failure, the illusion of defeat. And by that I mean the appearance seeming to suggest otherwise, which again is an illusion because what does the appearance suggest other than what the individual thinks about the appearance to suggest? As that is what he was referring to here. Not applying accurate thinking, not thinking for themselves, not thinking from the premise of truth. So the solution is, as he says here, when plans seem to appear to fail, they substitute others, but they do not change their purpose. They persevere. Eventually, they find a plan that succeeds. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And you are here to experience delight. And there is no darkness in him, as in there's no darkness in God, as again stated in 1 John 1:5. It is illusory to imagine otherwise. The darkness is the screen of space where delight appears on, in relation to our Neville Goddard conversation. If you identify to illusory thinking, then you might not see delight that's there. A perfect articulation of this also, with an example of it, was in that conversation that I had with Danielle, which I'll link to in the description. Wonderful conversation. So in grand summary, the key is to think for yourself and think clearly and accurately from the premise of truth. Be still and know that I am. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. What do you feel as you become still? You feel it experientially. You feel it in your body. Love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Whatever words you want to use to point to the spiritual truth that you exist now in a perfect, complete state is what I'm referring to. And from that premise, I automatically flow. You could say, I am being still, yet I appear to flow. As body appears to flow, mind appears to flow with accurate thinking in relation to the experiences as a flow-based blissful journey to manifesting the vision. And we do this by simply not identifying with these illusory thinking, untrue beliefs, thoughts, if they arise in mind. If you find it to be helpful, I recommend watching my video on the 7-day mental and emotional diet, where we factor both thoughts and emotions. As strong emotions may arise, no shame and condemnation, we may release it. Which then, as a result of releasing them, we find it's easier to think accurately. Untrue thinking may also arise in mind. By not identifying with those untrue thoughts, mind is purified, and the illusory beliefs that generate the emotions being experienced in a particular way, which we could say anxiety, again, that example was given in that video, conversation with Ruben, mind is purified. And you remain in your flow. And everything happens ideally, automatically, and you don't identify with this illusory devil. Because again, where can this devil appear to exist? Only in mind. That's what it means by in 2 Corinthians 11:14. And no wonder, for Satan masquerades himself as an angel of light. But the reality of God is pure delight. In him is no darkness at all. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, I remain as I am, thus I flow on purpose, manifesting delight wherever I appear, in, on, and as a wonderful service, resulting in an increasingly lavish, steady, dependable income, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit, with increasing frequency on a continuous basis as far as the senses perceive. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.